Chapter 2, pages 44 to 51, Psychological Measures. Studying behavior. Applying the scientific method to psychology can be challenging. Too much variability in people's behavior to properly group people. There must be ways to measure processes that cannot be directly observed. It can be difficult to isolate just one possible influence to test how it affects behavior. Ethical constraints on tests with people and animals, unlike studies with minerals and plants. Random sampling is important in psychology, but difficult to do. We cannot just study one human and expect to know all humans. Usually test a hypothesis about a certain category of people: babies, teens, college students, or adults. Important terms in studies. Population, which means the entire set of individuals we want to understand. Sample, the subset of populations selected for actual study. Representative sample, a sample that accurately reflects the total population of interest. We can never be too sure that a sample is truly representative of a population. A different sample could have different results. Random samples, samples in which every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected, and the selection of one person has no influence on who is selected next. No matter who is in the sample already, the next participant has the same equal chance to be picked as everyone else. It makes sure people are randomly assigned to control an experimental group. Study population, the group from which we actually draw our samples. A sampling frame is the method of drawing your sample, the way you select individuals from the study population. We use measures of central tendency to gauge differences between groups. What are the differences? Time, pills, education. To look for differences is the first step to compare average score. Our mean is the average measure for a group calculated by adding all the scores and dividing that sum by the number of individuals in the group. It's the measure of central tendency, an indication of where the scores in the sample cluster, which is the mean. The Bill Gates analogy. The outlier is a score that is much higher or smaller than the others. The median is the value that falls in the middle of all the scores. Half the scores are higher and half are lower. So the Gates metaphor starts with, if Bill Gates moved to a poor village, he would be the outlier. Whichever farmer's income is greater than that of 50% in the village and lower than that of another 50, one who is Bill Gates, if Mr. Gates loses so much wealth that he only has 1 billion, the mean income in that village would be exactly the same. The unvarying median would more accurately portray the village as a whole. The mode is a measure of central tendency that is the single score that is found most commonly among the participants. Statistical and graphing terms. Frequency distributions. Graphs in which a score is noted on the x-axis while the number of people who have each score is noted on the y-axis. This includes an increase and decrease, similar to a bell curve or normal curve. The mode is always easy to see. It's the score on the x-axis with the highest y value. Sometimes the bell curve is skewed because of outliers. Inferential statistics is a mathematical procedure to help infer what the population is like based on sample. It is the estimate differences to represent genuine differences. The range is the highest and lowest scores, used as a gauge of variability. Wide range equals lots of variability, and low range equals little variability. Variance is the statistical measure of the amount of variability in a population. And the standard deviation is the average amount that each individual differs from the mean, a common way of expressing variance. More terms. Effect size is how different the two means are from one another in terms of number of standard deviations. The inferential statistical test is the estimating the probability that a difference between two samples could be due to chance alone. The p-value is the probability that the difference between two samples could occur by chance alone. Statistically significant. A p-value chosen by convention as indicating that the differences are not likely due to chance. In psychology, this is generally that the p-value is less than 0.05.